Welcome to Module 11, Working with Charts and Graphs using Genero Report Writer 2.21. For some reports, you don't just want to display the numbers, you want to display the data graphically. So after this instruction, you're going to be able to differentiate between a map chart, a category chart, and an XY chart, and you're going to be able to use each chart type effectively in a report. When you're creating a graph or a chart using Genero Report Writer, you have three types of charts that you can choose between. The first type is a map chart. A map chart is where you have one key value and one data value. So an example, if you want to graph the quantity sold by product, you would create a chart that includes the product code as the key value and the quantity sold as the data value. If you're creating a category chart, you have two key values and one data value. So for example, if you wanted to know the quantity that was sold by product code, but further organized by country code, you would select both the country code and the product code as your key values, and you would use the quantity sold as your data value. The third kind of chart that you can put together is an XY chart. With an XY chart, you're graphing two data values. So for example, you could graph the quantities sold and the discount percentage, both numeric values, on a single chart. Within these different chart types, you can select between a variety of charts. For example, I might decide to do a pie chart, I might decide to do a bar chart, and there's other charts you can choose when you're selecting a map chart. As we go and work on each of these chart types, we'll use the drop-down list box to identify what possible style of charts you're able to select for a specific chart type. So let's start by looking at map charts. If I'm creating a map chart, I need to identify two things first. What is my key value, or what do I want to summarize by? And then what is the data value? What numeric value do I want to summarize? As you can see up here in this slide, I've shown you revenue by state. So my key value is the state I'm summarizing or I'm organizing by state. And then the data value, the numeric value that I'm adding together or that I'm summing, is revenue. And as you can see, I can produce a pie chart. By changing the chart type in the drop-down list box, I could do a ring chart as well. I could do a bar chart as well. When I'm creating these charts, it will include a legend, and the legend will identify what my key values are, what color I've assigned to that key value, and what the numeric value or what the sum value is. So when I place a map chart onto my report, there's going to always put chart, but then it's also going to put the item. So each graph or each chart you select is going to have an item associated with it. On the chart, there's specific properties that you're going to be setting. The key properties being, what is the title of that chart? What is the title of the key value? What is the title of the value? And then what type of chart I want to draw as. So for my map chart, I can choose between a pie 3D, a ring, a bar, or a bar 3D. Under the item, that's where I'm identifying what my key is and what my value is. So for both of these, I would populate them using a data item coming from my data schema. Let me demonstrate creating a map chart. So underneath my reports node, I'm going to go ahead and add a file new. Now I want to create a new report, and this time I'm going to create an empty report. I place my empty report, or I open my empty report, and I can see that right now it just has a page root for the report itself. Let me go to my data view and let me locate and open my RDD. I now have data values to place inside this chart. I can go to my toolbox, and underneath the page root, I'm going to go ahead and add a map chart. Notice that when I double click on a map chart, it adds the map chart, but it also adds the map chart item. Now I have to go and start entering in the properties. Let me expand my properties panel. And the properties I need to worry about are underneath the chart section. So underneath my title, I can do revenue by state. I'm using the title to clearly explain what this chart is going to represent. Under the keys title, I'm going to describe what the key or what the categorization is going to be for this chart, and I'm going to go ahead and group it by state. So let me go ahead and add state. Under my values, I identify what it is I'm summarizing, what numerical value I'm summarizing, and I'm going to be doing revenue. And then under my draw as, I get to select what type of chart I want it to appear. We're going to go ahead and keep it as pie chart for this demonstration. I can rename the item itself. So I know it's a map chart, but I might want to give it a better name, and I can just say revenue by state map chart. Now for the items, I need to specify what is the key and what is the value. For the key property, I need to identify what it is I'm summarizing by. I know I'm summarizing by state, so I open up my edit RTL expression. I can do my control spacebar to open up my code completion, and I can start entering in what it is. I know I'm summarizing by data.state.stateName. The value you want to choose here is going to be the value that appears on the report. So even though we're used to using the state code, because I want the full name expressed inside of this chart, I'm going to choose data.state.stateName. I click on OK, and the key value is populated. Now under the value property, I need to say what numeric value I'm summarizing, and I'm going to summarize the revenue. We're going to get the revenue by adding together the quantity times the price. So let me open up my RTL expression editor, code completion by doing the control spacebar. I can start selecting what it is I'm summarizing, and I'm summarizing the price times the quantity. I've now completed the value property. I now know it's going to summarize according to the state name, and it's going to add together, it's going to apply a sum to the price times quantity across all the rows that share that same state name. Let's go ahead and save our chart. I'm going to save it in the bin subdirectory, and I'm going to give it a name of revenue by state map chart. .4rp. I'm going to place it inside of that reports virtual folder. And now I'm ready to execute and see this chart displayed. Let me go back to my project and go into my report main. I'm going to remove the information I had in here for labels. I'm going to change the report name to specify my revenue by state. Now let me save my changes. Let me execute my application. And as I can see right now, it's just giving me a single state, and I quickly understand why. It's because I did not properly place my report triggers on this map chart. So I can go back to my map chart, go back to my structure view, and I need to organize it so that my group store num is falling underneath the page group, but then I want my item to be summarized on every row. So now my map chart is going to include all the data without any breaks because my store num trigger, my first report trigger is underneath the revenue by state map chart. However, I want every row to be included or summarized, so I'm going to put my map chart item, the item 1, underneath the on every row. I save my changes yet again. I re-execute. And this time I get my revenue by state chart, and I can see it includes my 3 states, and each one is displaying the sum value of the price times quantity for all items that are included in the same state.